Here we go. The message of today is the faith that sees afar off. The faith that sees afar off. I've been talking to you people about faith the whole week, and we are getting to the nitty-gritty of the subject of the matter right now. We are getting to the tough part of it, to the meat of the matter. And when faith is matured, a man of faith no longer lives and sees the physical things around him. He sees them physically with his eyes, but he pays less attention to them. A man that is really a man of faith, by the time his faith is truly matured, that individual will begin to see more of the spirit realities, and he will be more conscious of the spirit realities than is more conscious of the material, physical, and impossible conditions and situations around him. When a man of faith grows in the things of faith, when you are used to seeing God, walking with God, you day after day begin to feel yourself more like Enoch. Enoch walked with God so well, that he did not walk in the real physical world anymore. He started walking and fellowshipping with God directly, being here on the earth. And his fellowship was so real and strong that the distance and the speed of his relationship with God, his faith and his spirit traveled so far that the speed of it made him to become invisible in the physical realm. The distance he has traveled in the spirit made his body to just vanish. It was at the speed of light. You know, when anything travels at the speed of light, it ceases to be visible. And that is what happened. That is what happened to Enoch. So people who are not even at the level of Enoch, but who are always and are used to living in the spirit realm, even though they are still doing things here in the body, but the spirit realm owes more authority to them than the physical things they see, than the material physical world. Even though they still count with the material world, they are bringing things from the spirit world, but the things they are seeing in the spirit world is more real to them. It's just like me now. As much as I love people, but the reality of God every day is stronger to me than the reality of any human being around me. I even feel God and his presence stronger than I feel the presence of my children or my wife. I feel the presence of God stronger than I feel the presence of any human being around me. So when faith matures, a man of faith no longer lives for the things of today and tomorrow. So when I talk in our church about the fact that you don't live for family, you don't live for children, you don't live for anything like that, people kind of think I'm crazy or I am missing it, or I am, especially when I talk about death. When I talk about death, and with yearning and with desire, with passion, with love, and with desire to die as fast as possible, many members of my church come around and say, hey, Pastor, no, don't talk about death like that, as if death is something bad. They talk as if death is something horrible, as if death is something to be feared. But really, when you begin to live in the Spirit, and when you begin to, when you fellowship in the Spirit so much, your desire will be more to live there and remain there in the Spirit rather than living here on earth. The things of this earth begin to have less significance to you. Even though you are still living here and you are still implementing and bringing to pass, the things that you are seeing in the Spirit, you are still bringing them to the earth. But at the same time, the things you feel in the Spirit, the things that you see in the Spirit, they are more real to you. Like for me, I told the other guy, I told you people the other day, that the presence of God to me, not His presence. I don't need to wait for to feel His presence. God, this realization of God, the consciousness of God, for me, is so strong that it's like my skin. It's like God is my skin. Just like my skin covers me, all of me. So also I'm feeling myself covered in God every minute, every second. But I can't see my wife cover me like that every minute, every second. I only see her from the distance. My children, they don't cover me every minute, every second. I only see them from the distance. But God covers me every minute, every day, every second. It's like I'm in Him. So that reality, of course, makes it easier for you to take your decisions based on the things that you are saying that others are not saying, rather than the things that others are saying, and that is forcing them, that is pressurizing them, that is, pushing them to live by what they say. But you are saying something much more advanced. You are saying something much more perfect. You are saying something much more, impeccable. So that is what you are talking about. And that's why when people are really deep in the things of faith, sometimes it's like they are living in a world of illusion. Sometimes it's like they are living in a world of illusion. Sometimes it's like they are, they are talking of things that are not real. Well, it's because to them, it gets to a place you lose the. It's just like Paul. Paul was always talking about. He doesn't know either the thing he was talking about was taking place here in the flesh or it was taking place in the Spirit. It was so close. He was walking so closely with the spirit realm that he even lost the demarcation. He didn't even know if these things were happening in the spirit or they were happening in the physical realm. He was always in the spirit like that. I mean, amazing. And that is done by faith, you see. That is done by faith. You don't need to do meditation like the Eastern people do. You don't need to fly, Australia flying or some fly from your spirit or from your soul and go and meditate. No. This is just by your spirit eye and by your spirit man living by faith, seeing the realities of God, walking with God, through fellowshipping with God, through relationship with God, through constant relationship with God. It develops your consciousness so much that the consciousness of your spirit man is so strong that it is stronger than the consciousness of your five senses, your five senses. And that is why that's where we should all be. That's where we should all be. And that is what it means to live a superhuman life here on earth. And that is what it means to superimpose yourself on the realities of the earth. That's what it means that they that come from above are above all. So that is, so some of the people that we are reading about in Hebrews chapter 11, they got to that place. They got to a place whereby the things that they are seeing ahead of them, they know that for them to see, some of them, they are trying to bring them down. They are trying to bring those invisible things that they are seeing in the spirit down to the earth. But there are some of things they are seeing in the spirit. They have seen so much in the spirit and they have seen so far in the spirit that they know the only way for them to touch those things they are seeing in the spirit is to leave this body. That the only thing that is limiting them from seeing what and from getting what they are seeing in the spirit is to die. So it is at that point that, death to them is an achievement, because they have to conquer, they have to get a hold of what they are saying. And the only way to get a hold of that thing they are saying is to leave this body. It's an amazing life. It's an amazing life. And these people are just men of faith. And all of us can be like that. I mean, if I, a small boy from the village of Idomila, I used to think that Christianity was just a white man's religion, because all the men of God that I knew at the point were only white men. And I was saying, oh God, I don't know if this is for us, or if God, maybe God is partial. That time there were no Babs Adeboye, and there were not too many people like that. But now, I just see that is simple, that is ordinary now. To be a friend of God is a reality for everybody. It doesn't matter where you're coming from. So what I'm saying is that if this could be possible for someone like me that was thinking that Christianity was not even for the black man, it should be it should be a reality for you too. It should be a reality for you. So these men of faith, they look in the distance through the eyes of faith. They see in the spirit. They see the mind of God, the heart of God. They see the distant land, the distant territory, the distant, cities that are not built by the human hands. They see a land afar off. They see a country afar off. But before you get there to see afar off into 2,000 years, into 1 million years, into 2 billion years, before you get to a place where you are seeing afar off into God, into the kingdom of God, and the reality of heaven is stronger than the reality of the earth, you have to start from somewhere. So you have to start from somewhere. Again, so where do you start from to be able to be a man of faith that lives to that degree? You start from the definition of faith. You remember the definition of faith in this verse 1, Hebrews 11, verse 1. Now, faith is the substance of things hoped for. So you must start by having a dream. You must start by having a hope. You must start by having a vision. You must start by you having a dream. So you are starting to see your aspirations, your goals, your vision, your mission, your calling, your gifting, the reality of that you want to see in the future. But you start by you seeing into the distance into seeing something, maybe even seeing a product that you want to produce, maybe seeing another product that you want to produce. The ability of seeing by faith into the spirit realm, in something that is not yet there. It could be your dream, it could be your vision, it could be a physical thing, it could be a product, it could be the ability of seeing through your spirit realm, through your eyes of faith. That is where you start from. So you start with a vision, you start with a hope, you start with a dream, you start with a mission, we start with a goal that you set before you that has not yet been accomplished. Now, if you only have a target or a goal, if you only stop at that and you say, okay, I believe and I'm praying that this goal will come to pass, I'm praying that this vision will come to pass, it will not come to pass. It will just be like a dream. It will just be like a dream. It will remain a dream. But when you put that goal in front of you, when you set that vision in front of you, you must do something else, which we have already taught you about. You must make sure that you convert that idea into understanding. You must know and understand everything about what you are saying until it becomes wisdom, until it becomes a picture, So you must be able to see the picture. That is the maturity of an idea. When an idea or information or a word has grown in you and has become a picture, that is when that word is matured in you. So when you are now seeing in colors the things that you are aspiring to go to, it is easier for you to approach it. It is easier for you to walk and move towards it. It is then easier for you to walk. So that's where you start. But that is still not faith. Even when you see even when you see it in color, that is still not enough. Faith is when seeing it causes you to move into action. So that is faith. Faith is only not at the stage when you see it, that is faith, but at the stage when the thing you are saying is inspiring you so much that you cannot sit in a place again, and you begin to act and begin to move towards what you are saying. Then now you have faith. So it is not enough for you to have a goal or a target in front of you. It is not enough for you to have a target or a vision. But when the vision is so clear to you, when you know that you can do it, that it begins to energize you, energizing you, so much. It has energized you so much that your feet cannot keep on standing in one place, and your bottom cannot, cannot keep on just sitting in one place. You have to stand up and begin to pursue the vision that you see. When you begin to pursue that vision that you see, and begin to actually implement and produce evidence, produce substance of the thing that you have seen over there, then that is the confirmation that you have faith. So that it is that confidence of what you see that you are going to get into it, and the ability to continue pursuing it and bringing it to pass. That is when we know we have faith. Because any kind of faith that you say you have without action is dead. It's not faith. It's not faith. It's dead. What makes faith faith is the action that you are adding to implementing it. It is the action that you are adding to implementing it. It is the evidence that you are producing that is telling us that you believe in that thing. It is the substance that you are producing that, what you are seeing in the spirit realm. What are you producing here on the earth to make us sure, see what we are seeing here, that you believe in what you are pursuing is the evidence of your faith. So that's where you begin. So first of all, you begin by seeing your own faith, your own goal, your own vision. You begin to see the reality of it. Then you begin to see it in pictures. Then once you begin to see it in picture, you can then sketch it down or write a project of it or a business plan of it, and then you begin to build it or move towards it. Once you begin to do that, then you have to continuously walk like that towards something all the time. You're always bringing something from in the invisible realm to the visible realm. That is what is called living by faith. And that is what the Bible says when it says the just shall live by faith. So as a just, you have to come. It has to, just like we live by oxygen. So also you must live by faith. Living by faith therefore means that every second you must be striving towards bringing something from the invisible world to the physical world. You must always be moving towards bringing something to actualization and in the real world. You must be producing constantly some evidence, some evidence and some substance to show us that you are pursuing after something that you only are seeing that we are now seeing. So when you do that long enough, you begin to see far enough to the extent that, it becomes your second nature to just be constantly living for something new, to constantly be bringing out something from the invisible world into the visible realm. It becomes your second nature. You just begin to draw out from the spirit realm into physical. When you are so used to drawing that is when you eventually get to a place whereby the reality of the things that you are seeing over there, people are thinking you are living in delusion, but you are seeing them, they are so real to you. The reality of those things that you are seeing out there, they supersede, they overwhelm even the realities of the things that you see here. And that is the way to live. That is the best way to live. You remember 2 Corinthians chapter 4 verse 18 says, these people who have gotten to this place of seeing the invisible and of making the invisible realm more real to them than the physical realm, they are the ones who are really living. Because the truth is that according to that 2 Corinthians 4:18, that everything we see anyway, everything that is already visible is temporal. Everything that we already see, that is already, those are past tense. Everything is past tense, John. Now, the thing you need to do is to live by not the things that are already temporal, that has already past tense, but to live by the things that are in the future. And it is only those things that are invisible, that are not seen, that are permanent, that are forever. That is why when the people get to a place, when they begin to see things that are invisible, they know that is what is permanent. And they know they themselves are temporal because they are visible. As long as you are visible, you are temporal. As long as anything you are doing is visible, is temporal. So they will rather prefer to live the temporary body and the temporary life here and join in the eternity where everything is there for life and eternity. It's just like me now. When you really begin to see and live by faith, okay, you will start, like I said, with your vision, with your goal, with your, targets, with your dreams. But at a point, you will also move beyond that. Then you will begin to live by, when your faith begins to mature, then you begin to live by what you see, the goals of 10 years to come, the goals and targets of 20 years to come, then the goals on target of 30 years to come, then the goals and target of 50 years to come. You begin to dream. So when you begin to see those goals of 30, 40, 50 years to come, and you begin to bring them to pass, that is why I've not been at home for a week now. That's why I've not been in my house for a week. And that's why we had the retreat that we went to do out of the city with Pastor Bakari and Co. It's because we are dreaming, and we are not just dreaming anymore. We are now seeing, and we are working towards bringing the Nigeria of the future. The Nigeria that every black race will be proud of. The Nigeria that will become one of the leading countries in the world. The Nigeria that everybody will be scrambling to get their passport. That Nigeria that, I've been talking about, for anybody that cares to listen. That Nigeria we started doing things, practical things, that will really change the destiny of that country and make it so. Like I said again, it's not political, but it's something economical. Something transformational, social, something that will affect the life of ordinary people. So, I am seeing my own life 300 years from now. I am seeing, not my life, because I know that I will not live for 300 years, but I've already planned my life as stretched at least to 300 years to come. I'm seeing 300 years clearly. And beyond that 300 years, I can see 500 years behind it. I can say that I will live for 300 years for sure. The program I'm making now is for me to live for 300 years. But in the next 5 to 10 years, I will make another program that will make me to live for 500 years, between 500 years to 1,000 years. So when you begin to go to a place like that, when you begin to see things so far into the distance, that you are seeing yourself living 10, 20, 30, 50. I started with 20 years. I started by seeing Afar off. So everything I do right now, that time is everything I'm doing now is what I'm doing now is as a result of what I want to see in 300 years time. So everything I'm doing today is not geared towards today. Everything I'm doing today is not geared towards tomorrow. Everything I'm doing today is geared towards the 300 years to come. And in the next 5 to 10 years, like I said, everything I will be doing will be geared towards in the next 500 years. But I started with 20 years. When I was 30 years old is when I started living like this. I began to train myself to see in the spirit. I began to, not see in the spirit like a vision, no, to cast my life, to stretch my life, to dream about the kind of life I want to live, the kind of life I want my life to be when I'm 50. And so that was 20 years ago. I started building my influence. I started building my authority for today. 20 years ago. So 20 years ago, I constructed today. I constructed today 20 years ago. But today now, when I'm 50 already, I'm constructing 300 years to go. 300 years to go. 300 years over there. So that is what faith does for you. That's what faith does for you. Now, let me take you to the scriptures so that you not just believe me for it. You not just take my word for it. Let's look into Hebrews. Hebrews chapter 11 from verse 13 to 16. Hebrews 11, 13 to 16. Hebrews 11, 13 to 16. It says, these all died in faith. These all died in faith, not having received the promises. It's not because they didn't have the ability or the faith enough to receive the promise, but it's because they were, the thing they were saying, they transcend the physical realm. The things they were saying, they transcend time. And when what you are saying transcend time, you've got to come out of time to get it. Just like I'm saying now, I'm seeing things ahead in the next 300 years that I will be living. You will be hearing of Pastor Sunday Adelaja. You will be hearing Sunday Adelaja 300 years from now. And for that to happen, I've got to put it in its place. But for me, but how do I see it? I cannot see it. Because I will not be here 300 years from now. I cannot see it. But I would have received it in the spirit. Once I had already constructed it in the spirit, and I've already put system in place on the earth, I'm going beyond that 300 mark. I'm going to 500 mark. I'm going to beyond 500 mark. By the time I go beyond 500 mark, I'm out of time here. By the time you begin to see 1,000 years ahead, 1,000 years become like one day. You meet eternity and everything mixed up together. It's like one day. So by the time you're able to see into the distance of 1,000 years, it's time for you to leave the earth realm. But I'm still seeing the 300 years distance. So I see I have a long way to go to 1,000 years before I leave this world. By the time I begin to see 1,000 years from now, I will just transcend from here to eternity. Beautiful life. Superb life. So that is what happened to these people here. That's what he's talking about, that they all died in faith. What does that mean, they died in faith? That they were seeing something. It means they died seeing. That's what it means. They died seeing something out there and walking towards it. They died in faith. They died in faith does not mean, it's not the way we are thinking it. They didn't die in hope, hoping that, we are waiting and hoping for something to happen. No, they died not in hope, but in faith. And they died in faith means they died seeing something and walking towards it. It is in the process of walking towards it, they walk out of eternity. They walk out of time into eternity. They walk out of time into eternity. That's what it means that they died in faith. They died walking. They died pursuing. They died seeing something. They died actively pursuing until they stepped out of time into eternity to cash what they couldn't cash in time. So it says, all these died in faith, not having received the promises. So they did not see the reality of everything they died for. Like, for example, the Bible told Abraham that it was his descendants who are going to become like sands of the sea, like sands of the ocean, sand or stars of heaven. But Abraham saw that. Abraham, because God helped Abraham, God told him, go out of the tent. He went out of the tent, said, look into the sky. He went, look into the sky. How many stars do you see there? He said, there are many. Can you count them? They cannot count. So shall be your descendants. And descendants of Abraham, they are not just the Jews. The Arabs are descendants of Abraham. All of Middle East are descendants of Abraham. Asia is descendants of Abraham. So he said, so shall it be. You will not be able to count your descendants. But as of the time that Abraham died, he only had Isaac. He didn't even see the grandchildren. But he had seen beyond those grandchildren, the physical. So that's what he's talking about. That these died in faith. What faith? Seeing. Faith is the ability to see and walk towards it. And work for it. Because faith of just seeing and not walking is dead. Faith without work is dead. So Abraham died knowing that he already sees the stars. He already see the sand of the ocean. And he already see them. And he's walking towards it, obeying God and bringing God's reality to earth. When he walked, stepped out of reality into the spirit. And we say he died. So these all died in faith, not having received the promises, but having seen them afar off. The question that I have for you, my brother and sister, anyone who is watching me today, is, how far are you saying? 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 If you talk about 300 years to come, yeah, what I'm saying, 300 years to come. I'm not talking of Nigeria. That one doesn't even come to 300 years. Nigeria one that I'm seeing a new Nigeria, and that one is in my lifetime. I'm not talking of the 300 years time. I'm not even walking towards that one right now. The one of Nigeria, for the seed for the one of Nigeria has already been sown. That one is, we are talking about the next 10 years. We are going to create a new Nigeria in the next 10 years. In the next 10 years, you know, and then in the next 30 years, the Nigeria will be the kind of passport that is going to be treasured so much that everybody will be looking for it. So we're not, when I'm talking about I live 300 years from now, I'm not even talking about that one. That one is closer than 300 years from now. So how far are you saying? I will advise you to start at least 10 years from now. I will advise you to start at least, not just see yourself as an old person. I'm talking about what plans are you seeing, and how can you see the plans of what will be happening in your life in the next 10 years? Are you having a structure and a process, a plan, and how the working, you know, the picture, the color of how everything is going to be from now to that time, and exactly what you are supposed to be doing to make that happen? That is faith. So how far are you saying? I will encourage you to see at least 10 years from where you are right now. But normal. I started with 20 years. I would say 20 years is better. It's more, you know, it's more perfect. It's a perfect expectation. Ekunsanmi says, how far am I saying? I am very myopic. God help my unbelief. I haven't gotten to 5 years. I need my solitude time. Now, Ekunsanmi, let me tell you what. The problem you are having is just like the problem many people are having. The reason you are only saying 5 years or even less than 5 years is because you are consumed not by the future. You are consumed not by the invisible world ahead of you. You are consumed by the realities of the physical world that you are living in. You are consumed most likely either by how to feed your family, or you are consumed by, you know, going to work, or you are consumed by getting salary, or you are consumed by, you know, family duties, real life duties, everyday life duties. But before you could be able to see far ahead, you must be able to arise over and above these little mundane things of life. And definitely, I don't see how you can do that without practicing solitude. I don't see how you can do that without practicing solitude. Because you need to get that solitude time to get all my messages on calling, all my messages on the kingdom, all my messages on time, on work, and then listen to them many times. Those are the things that will help you to plan out your life. Those are the things that will help you to plan out your life. So the question is, how far are you saying? I think you are living a normal life if you are living today. You are bringing to pass today the things of 20 years ahead. If what you are doing today is the productive, is the activities that are directed at bringing to pass visions of 20 years ahead, then you are living right. Then you are living right. Yeah, you are living right. There must be something you are doing right now that points you that is making you to touch the vision of that whatever figure you give yourself. If it is 20 years vision, or 10 years one, or 100 years, you must be doing something now that we can be able to trace to that 20 years. That we're able to say, yes, this will produce this. This will lead to that in the next 20 years. So that's the first time. That's the first question for you. The first question is, how far are you seeing? I mean, when I'm talking of seeing, I'm thinking of how far are you seeing color. Then the next point, sometimes it doesn't start out in color, but at least start seeing something in sketches. The next question I have for you is this. What are the things you are doing now that are a pointer, that are evidences, that are substance of the things they are hoping for? What are the things you are doing right now that are the substance of those things you are hoping for? The evidence. I want to see the evidence of 20 years' time now. You must be able to have that listed. And your activities must all surround that thing, that 20 years time, 20 years planning, 20 years vision. All your activities today must be all geared towards that 20 years goal that you are moving towards. So the Bible says in Hebrews 11:13 here, that not having received the promises, they died in faith, but having seen them afar off. That's what I mean. Are you seeing afar off at all? What are you seeing afar off? How clear the thing you are seeing afar off? What are you doing right now that are targeting, or that are leading you, or that are connecting you with those things that you are seeing afar off? That is faith. They were seeing afar off, and they were moving towards it until they walked out of it, or out of time into eternity. Now, having seen them afar off, listen to what the Bible says about them. They were seeing these things afar off, but they were persuaded of them. These things are not physical. They are not seeing them physically, but they were seeing them afar off, but they were so persuaded. That's what I started with when I started. That the reality of the things you are seeing in the spirit will be more real than the physical thing you are seeing. They are more persuaded of the things they are seeing in the spirit than the things they are seeing around them in the physical. Persuasion. They are so persuaded. That's my next question to you. If you are talking about 10 years time, 10 years vision, 20 years vision, are you as persuaded? How persuaded are you? How persuaded are you about those things you are saying? Are you as persuaded about them as your family that you are seeing around you, as your job that you are having right now, as your car? Are you as persuaded about that thing you are saying as you are persuaded about your passport, about the food you are eating? Me, I'm as persuaded about my 300 years vision as I'm persuaded that I'm seeing all of you right now. Beautiful life, isn't it? Beautiful life. Amazing life. What a life. What a life. That's called life of faith, you see. What a life. So that's what I tell when I hear my American friends talk about faith, I laugh. When I hear, especially those people who call themselves the faith preachers, they are always talking about using faith to buy a car, using faith to pay mortgages, using faith to buy a house, using their faith to buy a car or a plane even. And those ones who buy plane, ooh, wow, ooh, wow. Or using their faith to build a big church. How many property do you have? House do you have? That's what they are using their faith to do mundane, temporary things, earthly things. But they are forgetting that that's no more faith. if everything that you are using your faith to do is just bread and butter thing, that things that are visible, everything that is visible is temporal. You should be using your faith to construct the invisible realm. You should be using your faith to construct the invisible future. You should be using your faith to construct 10, 20 years, 100 years ahead. You should be using your faith to construct the things that are invisible. You should be using your faith to bring those things that are invisible out into and from the invisible realm into physical world. Not just the some mundane things that everybody can buy. Even unbelievers can buy a car or plane or house. They don't need faith. They just need to work hard and make their money. So when I see all these my American faith preachers, some of them are my friends. I just when we meet together in some places where we're preaching together, and there's something they call green room, and everybody is sitting there, all talking about their car, their new tie, their new suit, their new plane, their new building, their new property. I'm just thinking, as if there is nothing spiritual, as if everything they are living about is just material. As if the reality that it exists is only material. But yes, we live in the material world. I know that. But we live from the spirit realm and superimpose ourselves on the material world. That's the way it's supposed to be. That's the life of faith. We live from within. From our spirit realm, we superimpose ourselves upon the physical realm. We live in the future. We live in the spirit and come from above, superimposing the heavens reality, kingdom reality, the invisible reality. We are imposing it upon the earth and making it visible. That's what faith is supposed to be about. When I hear them talk, they are talking about physical, mundane things that any human being can just go and buy. And we are talking about things that never existed or it at all. And bringing them by faith, seeing them and creating them, building companies, building factories, building industries, not because you just want to do something that is already there, because you are seeing some things in the spirit that other people are not seeing yet. So the businesses and the industries are supposed to be, they are instruments to bring those things from the invisible realm and to go and bring them into production here on earth. You are bringing out new stuff all the time. That is the life of faith. That's what the life of faith is about. If you have read my book, Your Shift, that's what I tell them. And I wrote in that book, I said, I tell my friends that if you want to use your faith to just buy another plane, good for you. I will also buy a plane. With what I'm doing now, I'm going to be so busy that I will need a plane sooner or later. But it's not about plane. And it might not even be me who will buy. It's just the organization that will, that will be running, that will buy. But anyway, what I'm saying is this. I'm telling them, if you want to use your own faith to buy a new car or a new shirt or a new tie or a new suit or a new property or a new building, that's good for you. I mean, good for you. Wow, you are the big man. Or you want to buy a new plane or a new this, a new building, a new that. That's what you are using your faith for. Good for you. But I want to use my faith to subdue a nation. I want to use my faith to subdue nations. I want to use my faith to bring inheritance to God. I want to use my faith to live for 300 years to come. I want to use my faith to bring to pass things that are not yet existing, things that are in the spirit. I want to use my faith to bring it to pass in this physical realm. That's what I want to use my faith for. I don't want to use my faith for all those small things like buying a suit or buying a car or paying my mortgage or paying my bills. That's the kind of messages people are preaching to people in church. By the grace of God, faith to pay your bills. You pay your bills through faith. What about other people who are paying their bills without faith? You buy your car, faith. I bought it by faith. Well, I don't know. Maybe I want to be like these ones that I'm reading here in the Bible here. These ones. Those are the ones I want to be like. And he said, these all died in faith, not having received the promise. But that's not a tragedy because they had received so much already. And they were seeing much more in the spirit that they were going to get it. And for them to get it, they have to come out of this body. It's because the body became a limit. The body is limiting them. But it says, but having seen them afar off, But the things that they have seen afar off were so real to them that they were persuaded about those things that they were seeing afar off more than the things that they are seeing in the physical. But it didn't end there. These people walk by faith. They move with God so much. They see so clearly in the spirit that the things that they were persuaded of, it got to a place that they began to embrace those things. Embrace. You know what is embrace? Embrace is this. Embrace. 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 Can you embrace something that you cannot touch? Can you embrace something that you cannot even see physically? Can you embrace something that is invisible? Can you embrace something that is intangible? It is at that point when they begin to embrace the invisible things of the Spirit into 500 years to come, into 1,000 years, 3,000 years ahead there, when they now go to the reality of the Spirit, to the extent of embracing those things, they are transferred, they are transformed, they are transported, they are changed. They move over there into the spirit realm. They just transmit into the spirit. Can you imagine what kind of concrete reality? Can you imagine what kind of, clarity in the spirit? Can you imagine what kind of proximity to God and proximity to the spirit that people will have as to be embracing things that are not invisible, that are invisible? So it is at that point they begin to confess that they were strangers and pilgrims on the earth. That no, they just begin to realize that it's no more interesting here. It's no more interesting here. It's no more interesting here. It is no more interesting here. Oh, it is now boring. We don't need this thing. We have done our job here. We are only strangers and pilgrims. We are only strangers and pilgrims. But at the same time, there are people around them who are saying, oh, I wish I get married. Oh, I wish I get a baby. Oh, I wish I get a car. Oh, I wish I... Why they are looking, they are even saying this whole world is temporary and we're just strangers and pilgrims. We don't even, including children, including the grandchildren, house, everything. They just live in. We are pilgrims and we don't even, they are not interested anymore. They have tasted of the world to come. Faith that sees far off. The faith that sees far. What did I say? Far away or whatever I call it. That's the kind of faith we're talking about. That's the kind of faith we're talking about. That's the kind of faith we're talking about, my dear. The faith that sees afar off. 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 Then verse 14 it says, for they that say such things declare plainly that they seek for a new country. They seek a new country. They are seeing a new country already. Country that is much more superior to the one we have here. Country that is much that supersedes many times over the one we have here. They seek not just for a new country, they seek for a new planet, a new continent, a new planet. They seek for a new world that is not built with physical things. And truly, if they had been mindful of that country from where they come from, if they had been mindful, if they had been so concerned about the things of the earth, they would have stayed here. They would have died as ordinary men. They would have died as ordinary princes. If they had been mindful of the things of the earth, that's why we must not be attached. We must be more attached to the invisible things than we are attached to the physical things. We must be more attached to the heavenly truth and heavenly reality than even we are attached to our children. We must be more attached to God. We must be more attached to heaven, to his dreams and aspirations, to the kingdom realities than we are attached to our children, to our family, to our spouse. You know, especially we Christians. We talk about family. We are living for family. We are living for family. Oh, living for children. We have made children, family idols. We live for them. And it is because of that life for children, for family, that we are grounded. We are limited. We are limited by the physical thing. They don't allow us to move in the spirit, and they don't release us into the spirit realm to be able to soar and be able to see deeper and farther. But they were not mindful. That's what they say. They were not mindful of all those things, all the achievements, all the great things. Can you imagine the achievement, the wealth that Abraham had? Isaac, Jacob, all of them, Solomon, David. Can you imagine all the wealth they had? But they were not mindful of them. They were more mindful of the things of the Spirit. They were more mindful of the things they were saying ahead. They were not so mindful of the physical things. But when I hear preachers today, especially charismatic Pentecostal preachers, they are only teaching you about material things, physical things. They are even teaching you to be more grounded self. They are teaching you to be more mindful of the things on the earth rather than on the things in heaven. It's the opposite. As if everything comes from the earth. No, everything comes from the Spirit. There is nothing that is here now that you cannot find something that is greater from the Spirit and bring here. So because they were not mindful of the things that were here, even though they made them, they built them, they had great successes, but they are seeing things greater in the Spirit. That's why they couldn't be tempted to remain here forever. That's why their hearts were not here. And that's what Jesus meant when he said, where your heart is, that's where your treasure is. So if your heart is only about the things on the earth, it means earth is your treasure. But these people, their treasure was heaven. Their treasure was in heaven. Their treasure was in the Spirit. That God wants us all to have our treasure in heaven, not on earth. No matter how everything on earth is so precious, children, family, as precious as those things are, they are nothing compared to the treasures of the Spirit and the treasures of the kingdom. But now they desire a better country. That is it. That is an heavenly country. Wherefore God is not ashamed to be called their God. God is not ashamed of them. Not because they made mistake or they didn't make mistake or they sinned, they didn't sin. I mean, can you imagine if we are talking about physical mistakes or problems? Abraham is the champion of them all, but he was the champion of faith too. But God was not seeing all his failures. God was seeing his faith, and he said he was a righteous man. Noah was not a perfect man, like we spoke about yesterday, but God said he was a perfect man in his own eyes because of their faith. It is God, it is your faith that makes God to respect you. It is not your own righteousness, because even your own righteousness, the best of it is like a filthy rag. It's not your righteousness. Your own righteousness cannot make God to respect you. What makes God to respect you is your faith, your ability to see into his word and to fellowship with him, to walk with him, and to bring things from the spirit realm to the earth. The ability to live your life in the spirit and to live from the spirit outside, from the spirit to this place. The ability to live from inside out, not from outside in, but from inside out. That is what that makes God to respect you. So God was not ashamed of them. It doesn't matter what they did. You know, there are lots of things that we thought could cause shame. I mean, Abraham had 5 wives. Maybe God should be ashamed of him. No, he was not ashamed of him, because he was seeing his faith. He was proud of his faith. Noah got drunk. Oh, maybe you should be afraid of him. Maybe you should be ashamed of him. No, he was not ashamed of his drunkenness. Why? His faith superseded his drunkenness. Abraham lied about his wife. What God should be ashamed of him? No, God was not ashamed of him. His faith superseded his lies. You know, things will happen in your life. If you are going to focus on your mistakes and on your failures, if you are going to focus on those things, you will never soar in the spirit. But if you are going to focus on your pursuit of God, if you are going to focus on your faith, the ability to use faith to pursue God, that faith, that your walk with God will supersede all your inadequacies and failures in the physical. Because the physical things would never supersede the spirit. The physical imperfection would never be stronger than the imperfection of the spirit and perfection of faith. That's why the only way you can please God is by faith. Nobody can please God without faith. No one can please him. Faith is what God demands, because that's the language of the spirit. That's his own language. That is the language of God's word. That is the way and the means you use to please him, and you use to communicate with him, to please him. And it is your faith that makes him to be proud of you, not your works. So wherefore God is not ashamed to call them his own. God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he had prepared for them a city. Why? He prepared for them a city because they saw that city already. So when they were on earth, they were seeing things and they were bringing those things by their faith and by their walk to pass on the earth. When they are seeing the spirit, they walk it out and bring it to physical realm and make it physical. Why they're on the earth? That is the law. When you're on the earth, everything you see in the spirit, you must walk it out and make it tangible and make it physical. But when they were seeing greater things now and farther things than, those things that could be, brought to the earth, God makes sure that whatever they have seen over there in the spirit, God builds it for them physically over there. Here they have to build it for themselves. But God honors them so much. He honors their faith so much. God builds those cities and those things that they are saying, that they were looking up forward to. What they are saying in the spirit. It is no more they that are confronting in the spirit. God is building it to them to honor them. They still receive it anyway. They still receive their expectations. They still receive the promises, but it is now delivered to them by God. It is now constructed, not by their own hands, not by their own efforts, but by the efforts of God as a reward for their faith. It is an amazing life. It's an amazing life. You guys can't believe it. My time is over. My time is over. Well, if you have not shared this link and you don't have a copy of this message yet, just look for the share button after. Look for the share button after this video. Under this video, you'll see a share button. You should look for that share button. When you press the share button and you share it, it will come automatically to your page. It will come automatically to your page. And then you can watch this over and over again. If you think that you've heard this message and you got it and you understand it, I'm sorry, you don't. You need to understand. You need to listen over and over again before you could say you understand it. This is a very deep and a very serious message, and I pray that for into your whole lifetime you will still have opportunity to hear a message like this. The depth of this message is overwhelming. It is actually only for those who are prepared and matured. This is not your everyday message. This message is a kind of message that you hear once in a lifetime. I mean, many people have lived a long life and many times over, and they've not had a message like this. And it is not the first one. I've been preaching this for the past 1 week. So if you have missed all these messages, go to my blog, Sunday Adelaja blog, SundayAdelajablog.com, SundayAdelajablog.com. And you want to go and see my daily broadcast and video broadcast, and you will see them. You'll be able to listen to everything you missed. All right, guys. Thank you so much for your time. God bless. Bye.